Woodworking tools aren't really my specialty. Hey Dazer, lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. No, that's not laying down, hon. Hey folks, welcome back to the next video in our Masterbox Lite 3.1 series. This is where we're trying to take a nice little $50 Cooler Master case, turn it into something a little more flashy, mainly something along the lines of a home theater amplifier, like a high-end amp. So what we've done is we've replaced the top panel, or replaced the side panel, I guess, originally, with a nice piece of acrylic to give it a little better look. We flipped the case on its side to set it like a desktop, added some feet, so it looks kind of cool. And now that has created a problem, which everything you do in modding creates a problem. It's kind of the whole idea of modding is making problems to solve. I don't know, it's weird. But when we flipped it on its side, our top is nice. There's no airflow in this case, which sucks normally, but for our use, that actually works good because we have a nice clean panel up here. But the bottom, obviously we've got our mounting locations for our feet, for our drive bays. We've got this grill spot for our power supply intake and the tabs to hold the filter in. So we've got to do something to cover this up. Now, originally I thought, we'll just grind all this off and slap a panel on it, which, I mean, by the time you took all the raised spots out of this, you'd wind up cutting the whole panel out and basically replacing it, which works. But then again, if you did that, you would never be able to change this case back to a tower form because you wouldn't have your feet mounting locations or anything like that. So I kind of threw that idea out the window. My next thought was, well, we'll make a spacer for a piece of acrylic, and that'll clean all this up and it'll be fine, which would work. But I have two issues with that. We've got some really close spots here to where any spacer we've made would be really thin and therefore brittle and prone to breaking. Also, with the spacer, you lined up with a seam line on that side of the panels that you really can't get rid of, and I didn't want that. So my idea was to take a real thick piece of acrylic and then take a nice little router like we've got here and plunge cut a pocket into that piece so it creates a space for all this stuff to sit in, and then we can still attach it and it still butts up nice and tight to the rest of our case. So like I said, we're going to use a plunge cut router. Normally, this would be something very easy on a CNC machine because, that's what they're built for, is pockets and stuff like that. But I wanted to make it to where you could do this at home with a minimal investment. I don't want you to go out and buy a $1,000 router or CNC machine to make one panel for a $50 case. But we've got a $50 router here, somewhere in that area, that price range, where we can go in, cut this out. You can use this for different projects. Maybe your folks or a friend has one that you can borrow. So you're not investing a lot of money into tools, but you're also going to clean up this panel as easily as you possibly can, and pretty quick, really. So we are using a plunge cut router. We're going to use a straight bit, which is a bit that has, it doesn't have anything on the bottom as far as round edges, and basically it's just a straight cut. So it's going to give us a nice groove. We can use that to clean out all the spots in the pocket that we're doing. And we're also going to be doing this in a piece of 3/8, holy geez, acrylic. And this is clear acrylic, partially because it's what I have. And also I think it'd be kind of cool to see what it looks like with the pocket cut and mounted, so you can see just how it works. And what we'll be doing is, after we get it cut out and everything, we'll go through and put a nice coat of black paint on it to match the rest of the case. Normally I would do this probably out of black acrylic, just because, and then go ahead and paint it as well to match the other side. But that way, if we ever scratched it or anything, we would have a black base under it and it wouldn't show up. But we're going to try it with the clear. I think it'll be really cool to watch and see how it looks. So the first thing we want to do is get this router out of my way and start laying out some measurements. When we go in and measure this, we want to measure basically front to back, and then we want to be just inside the lip of our back panel, or bottom panel now, because it does stick out just a hair. We don't want this panel interfering with it. So just at that edge to the bottom of the edge of our acrylic. So your front to back is going to be 40 millimeters. And then side to side or top to bottom now is about 18.5 is what we're going to call that. So we need a piece 40 by 18.5 that'll cover this up. Now we need to go in and measure the space between our edge and, let's say, our our feet actually is probably a good spot to use, because that'll give us just enough clearance to get past them. The rest of this isn't going to matter a whole lot, so we'll use that distance as the edge of our pocket. So we're going to call that, it's about 5, but we're going to call it 4 millimeters because we want a little bit of leeway on there if we need to. Now, something I am noticing is we've got some rivets that are probably going to give us a little bit of trouble with this panel sitting flush. But what we can do is when we go in and actually attach this, we can go in with a file some of that down and give us some clearance on those rivets. Shouldn't be too much of an issue.
It's something that you do, but you don't rush. Something that you want, but you need it more. You've got it in your heart, but your mind's blown. You know that you can try, you're getting so close. It's something you can do with your hand.
Now, before we start getting crazy and cutting stuff, we do need to know how deep we need to make this pocket. So what we're going to do is take a straight edge, set it up against our case, and measure to the edge that we are actually trying to get this panel flush with. So right there, we're looking at about 4 millimeters height. On the tabs for the filter, we're looking at 6. And then the screws for the drive bay are about 5. That gives us a couple of options. Now, if we just want to get past the feet, have it fit as flush as we can change out these screw hole or these screws to a button head, which will be a flatter head, which will let us, keep it closer there. And then we can go in and cut off these tabs for our PSU filter, which I think I want to do. I think I want to go 4 millimeters and keep it as close to these feet mounts as possible, because I want to use those again to mount this panel. So we're going to go ahead, and after we get done routing this piece, we're going to take a Dremel and knock these little tabs off, because I'm not planning on using them again. In your case, maybe you want to use them again, so you'd want to cut this a little bit deeper, but I'm just going to get rid of them. That way we have a nice, we take out as little material and leave this panel as strong as we can, and also get it really close to where these feet mount locations are, so that when we screw it down, we're not flexing that acrylic a whole lot. So we'll go 4 millimeters deep, which is handy because it's 4 millimeters wide and 4 millimeters down, so 4 deep. And we can set our router up to cut just 4 millimeters deep. Now's when I've got to be totally honest with you. Using woodworking tools is not my strong suit. I grew up in construction, so I know sawzalls and big drills and excavators and all sorts of stuff. But when it comes to woodworking tools, I don't feel confident in my ability to teach anyone else to use them. I think I'm right on that line of actually being able to use it myself. So I don't want you all watching what I'm doing and thinking that's the way to actually use this tool. I would much prefer you find somebody that you know or that has knowledge of the tool to learn how to use it from. So friends and family or neighbors who are into woodworking, there are a lot of maker spaces going up now where I'm sure there's someone there who's into woodworking who would be more than happy to teach you. Tutorials, videos, books, whatever you find about using a router or most of these woodworking tools, they're probably going to be a better source of information than I am. So that being said, I'm not going to go into the setup or anything like that, but we are going to set up a couple of jigs so we can cut some straight lines and then get our pocket cut out so we can finish this project up. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Now there are a couple of ways we can route this pocket out. We can freehand it, which means all the cuts will be kind of crazy, and if the router gets away from me, I'm going to tear something up. or we can set up a jig, which is what I've done. What I've done is I'm using a 1/4 inch straight cut bit in my router, and I've measured from the edge of the blade to the edge of my router, and that's 7 centimeters. And I've set this square up 7 centimeters off my cut line, so hopefully what's going to happen is this edge will follow along that cut line, keep me in the cut area that I want to use. I do have to be a little careful, as my router does have straight edges on a few spots, and that will drastically change that distance if I get into those. So I do have to be a little careful. Okay, so we've got the pocket cut out, all the thousands of chips picked up, and the shop cleaned up a little bit. Now, the pocket didn't come out as spectacular as I'd hoped. Part of that's because, you know, it's a hand tool and we're just kind of trying to do the best we can. Also, taking out this much material in a pocket, what happens is your router runs out of material to sit on at the original height, so it gets harder to control the height and the tilt of your router as you're going along. So it's a little rough. Now we could go in and sand it down a little smoother. I'm not going to worry about that since you're never going to see this. This side's actually facing the case, and I'm going to paint it anyway, so not going to be concerned about that a whole lot. May want to sand it a little bit for the paint to stick better, but beyond that, we're not going to do too much to it. The next thing we want to do is cut this piece out of our sheet. Now if you've got a stationary saw like a bandsaw or a scroll saw, that's pretty easy. You just cut down your lines, you're good to go. With a jigsaw, we're going to run into the same problem we have with the router of not having this material for our saw to sit on, and we're going to be worried about the saw tilting and giving us an angled cut. To get past that, I'm going to take our measurements, transpose them to the other side, and cut it on the back side of this sheet. That way we've got a nice flat sheet to cut on. Now that we've got our panel cut out, we want to go in, see how it fits. And it's not too bad. We are running into the problem with the rivets that we had worried about when we first started. So we'll have to go in, do a little trimming across these edges. And then also we do need to go in and fix our case where these tabs stick out, because they are a little bit longer than what we cut out of our panel. I'll probably take this bay out too as well while I'm at it, just to get it out of the way and not have to deal with it later. So let's go ahead and start on this modification so that we can get this modified to fit it. I filed out our spots for our rivets, so this fits pretty nice on both ends. Now what I'm going to do is line it up where I want it, take a couple of clamps and clamp this piece down so it doesn't move on me, and then I'm going to mark my mounting locations on the inside, and then I can drill those out, because my back panel is a little cloudy. I can't really see anything through it, so I don't know if you can tell. It's a rather interesting look, the bottom of what's routed out. But we'll flip this over, mark the insides, and we should be, after that, ready to drill a couple holes and mount this panel. And there we go. The fit is actually really nice. Now we can go in, take this panel off, clean up our edges with a file and some sandpaper, get this ready to paint. We are going to go and sand it, do a coat of self-etching primer, and then cover that with semi-gloss black paint. I found that semi-gloss matches these cases a lot better than flats, so it shouldn't stand out too much. And once we're done with that, I think we'll be finished. Alright, there you go. We slapped a couple coats of semi-gloss black on it, slapped it on the case after a couple of days of curing. And I think it turned out pretty well. It does a good job of covering up our holes and everything in the power supply intake on this side of the case. Gives us a nice clean look that matches the other side of the case. So I'm not too worried. The paint's a little bit off just because it's impossible to match these case paints, but it's close enough for me now, so I'm gonna live with it. Otherwise I'd have to paint the whole case, and I'm really not feeling that ambitious right now. So hopefully that helps if you're looking to make a cover panel for something. Hopefully you don't have to go through pocketing a whole panel to make it fit. But if you have to do it, now you know how. Now you've seen it done, so you can do it on your own. I will say one thing: be very careful with routers because they're scary. So that does it for this part of the mod. Hopefully next time I will get to the front of the case, which is the part that I really want to do. But for now, that's it. So if you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to see what comes up next, hit the subscribe. If you've got questions or comments, hit me up down in the comment section. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. And I guess until next time, get out there and mod something.
Something about the way you evolve. It's hard for them to